Graeme Souness entered the world of football like a storm gathering, strength on the horizon, unpredictable yet impossible to ignore. From his earliest matches, there was a fire in him that demanded attention. Fans felt the tension the moment he stepped onto the pitch, knowing something fierce was about to unfold. His presence carried a mix of danger and brilliance, and football quickly learned that Souness played by his own rules. His career soon became defined by a level of intensity few players could match, a force that powered both his success and his conflicts. Souness tackled with purpose, led with authority, and confronted challenges head-on, but that same fire often sparked heated moments with rivals and teammates alike. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind, even when it caused friction. For Souness, passion always came before peace. At Liverpool, this fiery nature helped build one of the most dominant midfields in European football. Yet, with every triumph came stories of sharp words, clashes, and unfiltered honesty. His temper made him feared. His talent made him respected. He brought a ruthless edge to the team that drove them to glory. But that edge sometimes cut deeper than intended. Even as he transitioned into management, the storm inside him never truly calmed. His decisions, confrontations, and strong opinions continued to create headlines across the football world. Supporters praised his fearlessness, while critics questioned his approach. But Souness remained unapologetically himself, bold, demanding, and fiercely competitive. His journey began in controversy, and it only grew more intense from there. Graeme Souness carried a reputation that followed him across every league he stepped into, a mix of admiration and unease. His confrontational style often placed him at the center of intense football drama. Opponents knew one mistimed challenge could ignite his temper without warning. Yet behind the clashes was a leader determined to protect his team at all costs. His fire was both his greatest weapon and his most dangerous flaw. As his influence grew, so did the polarizing stories that surrounded him. Tough team talks, heated training sessions, and bold decisions that split opinion. Some saw a commander who demanded excellence, while others saw a man unwilling to soften his approach. But Souness never changed his identity to please the crowd. He walked the line between brilliance and chaos with unwavering confidence. And that balance shaped the legacy that football still debates today. Graeme Souness's managerial career carried the same intensity that defined his playing days, and that intensity often spilled into disputes with players and club boards. His demand for discipline sometimes clashed with dressing rooms that weren't prepared for his strict approach. At several clubs, players described his methods as uncompromising, sharp, and emotionally charged. Souness expected total commitment from everyone around him, and when he didn't see it, conflict was never far behind. At Rangers, his fire helped transform the club, but it also created moments of friction with players who struggled under his fierce standards. Souness wanted fighters, not passengers, and anyone who fell short felt the full weight of his authority. His confrontations were direct, loud, and unapologetic. Yet even in these heated moments, his goal remained the same: to build a winning culture. His intensity was a blade that cut both ways. During his time in England, managerial disputes followed him like shadows, especially when his strong personality met equally strong locker rooms. Souness challenged players publicly and privately, demanding they match his level of commitment. Some grew under that pressure, while others pushed back. His reigns were never quiet, always charged with emotion and expectation, and that tension shaped every club he led. The most explosive chapter came during his tenure at Galatasaray, a story that still echoes through Turkish football history. Souness arrived with confidence and a desire to rebuild a team hungry for glory, but managing in Turkey meant stepping into a world where passion is unmatched and rivalries run deep. He embraced the challenge with open arms, never flinching from the intensity around him, and that fearlessness would soon create one of the most dramatic moments of his career. The Turkish Cup final against Fenerbahce became the stage for an act that would define Souness's legacy in the country. After securing a dramatic victory, he walked onto the enemy's pitch with a boldness few could believe. In front of a shocked crowd, he planted a massive Galatasaray flag into the center circle of Fenerbahce's stadium. The gesture erupted into instant chaos and electrified the rivalry. It was a moment of pure symbolism, defiant, risky, unforgettable. That single act elevated him to legendary status among Galatasaray supporters, who saw it as the ultimate declaration of pride. But for Fenerbahce fans and officials, it was a spark in a powder keg already filled with tension. Security scrambled, tempers rose, and the atmosphere turned dangerously heated. The Turkish media exploded with debate and outrage. Souness had become the face of the rivalry overnight. In the aftermath, the political and emotional weight of the incident proved too much for the club's stability. Rival supporters demanded consequences, and the pressure around Souness reached critical levels. His position became untenable as the hostility intensified week after week. Eventually, he departed Galatasaray sooner than expected, leaving behind a legacy both celebrated and condemned. The flag incident became one of football's most iconic acts of defiance and one of Souness's boldest moments. Graeme Souness's reputation for confrontation didn't stop when he moved from the pitch to the manager's office. Throughout his career, he was involved in several widely discussed disputes with players who struggled under his intense expectations. One of the most notable tensions involved Liverpool legend Thompson, who had long-standing disagreements with Souness over leadership, style, and team direction. When Souness later returned as manager, he ultimately removed Thompson from the coaching staff. The decision fueled debate across the club and highlighted Souness's uncompromising authority. His fiery personality also created headlines during his time at Newcastle United, where he frequently clashed with forward Craig Bellamy. Reports from teammates and media described their relationship as strained, filled with sharp exchanges and emotional confrontations. Bellamy's outspoken nature collided with Souness's strict discipline, creating a volatile working environment. In one widely circulated story, Souness was said to have issued a heated warning during a dispute. The feud became one of the defining dramas of his Newcastle tenure. Souness's relationship with striker Andy Cole was another example of his tough, unforgiving managerial approach. Their disagreements began at the start of Cole's professional career, where Souness pushed him with blunt instructions and direct criticism. Cole later spoke about how difficult he found those early experiences, describing them as emotionally heavy. Souness, however, always insisted his methods were aimed at building resilience. Their conflict became a famous chapter in both of their journeys. His confrontational style wasn't limited to club players. Souness also found himself at odds with entire football institutions. One of the most widely discussed tensions came from his disagreements with the Scottish FA. Souness often challenged the organisation publicly, criticising its decisions, leadership, and direction for Scottish football. These clashes created national headlines and added to his image as a man unafraid to challenge authority. To many, he was a disruptor. To others, a truth teller. What made these disputes so memorable was that none of them came from malice. They came from Souness's belief that football demanded absolute commitment. His confrontations were intense because he was intense, and his feuds were loud because he lived loudly. Whether it was a teammate, a star striker, or a governing body, he never backed down from conflict. His legacy is shaped not only by trophies and success, but by the battles that defined him, and those battles remain some of the most unforgettable stories in modern football. Graeme Souness's punditry career has been just as fiery as his days on the pitch, and his words often create as much impact as his tackles once did. In 2022, he faced widespread criticism for describing a physical Chelsea versus Tottenham match as a man's game. Many viewers argued that the phrasing felt outdated, especially as the women's game was experiencing historic global growth. Souness later clarified that he was referring to the physical nature of the match itself. Still, the incident ignited a nationwide debate about language in modern football. The reaction to those comments showed how much the sport has evolved and how carefully public figures must navigate this discussions. In today's football landscape, supporters of the women's game saw the phrase as undermining their progress. Others argued he meant no disrespect and was speaking from his old-school perspective. Regardless of intention, the controversy spread quickly across headlines, and once again, Souness found himself at the center of a storm. His strong opinions didn't stay confined to match analysis. Live TV often became a battleground for tense exchanges. One notable moment came when Souness clashed on air with Sky Sports presenter David Jones. The disagreement escalated when Souness expressed visible frustration, reacting sharply to what he believed was a dismissive look. Viewers were stunned by the sudden tension on the broadcast. It was a reminder that Souness carried the same emotional intensity even in a studio. The incident highlighted how easily misunderstandings can flare when passionate personalities collide under the pressure of live TV. Souness's reactions were shaped by decades of high-stakes football where emotions run close to the surface. Jones later downplayed the moment, but fans continued to dissect the exchange online. Some found it uncomfortable, others found it compelling. Either way, it became another headline attached to Souness's punditry legacy. One of the most recurring themes of Souness's time as a pundit has been his critical analysis of Paul Pogba. He frequently questioned Pogba's consistency, commitment, and overall impact at Manchester United. His comments became a running debate across sports channels and social media. Some fans agreed, arguing Pogba never reached his full Premier League potential. Others felt Souness's commentary was overly harsh and repetitive. The ongoing nature of his criticism turned the Souness-Pogba dynamic into one of football media's most talked about rivalries. Every poor Pogba performance reignited the discussion, and every strong match reignited the counter-arguments. Analysts debated whether Souness was fair or old-fashioned in his expectations. Pogba himself once joked that he didn't know why Souness singled him out so often. The tension between player and pundit became a story of its own, and away from TV screens, Souness's name also appeared in public debates surrounding a proposed football academy project he supported. While many welcomed the idea for its focus on development and opportunity, stirred controversy in one local community. A campaigner described the academy as confrontational, expressing concern that its perceived Rangers flavor might inflame existing sectarian tensions. The claim sparked discussion about football's influence on social divides. Souness's involvement added even more focus to the story. This controversy illustrated how deeply football identities run in certain regions and where club associations can shape public opinion far beyond the sport itself. Souness, with his Rangers history, naturally became a central figure in that conversation. Supporters argued the academy would benefit local players and bring professional structure. Critics questioned its cultural impact. The debate showed how even well-intentioned projects can become lightning rods in the sensitive communities. Despite these public incidents, Souness has remained committed to speaking openly, never hiding behind softened words or carefully polished statements. His personality rejects neutrality. He believes football should be challenged, questioned, and pushed. This fearlessness makes him compelling to some and controversial to others, but either way, he refuses to dilute his opinions for the sake of comfort. It's a trait that has defined his entire post-playing career. In the end, Graeme Souness's life in punditry and public debate mirrors his legacy on the pitch: bold, emotional, confrontational, and never dull. His comments spark discussions that ripple through the sport, shaping narratives whether people agree or disagree. He remains a figure whose presence guarantees reaction, conversation, and controversy. Love him or criticize him, his voice has become part of football culture, and his impact continues every time he steps behind a microphone. Graeme Souness's journey through football has been a storm of passion, conflict, and unforgettable moments. From the man's game debate to his fiery on-air exchanges, his voice has never gone unnoticed. Every controversy reflected the same personality that once dominated midfields across Europe. Love him or criticize him, he refuses to blend into the background, and that defiance defines defines his legacy. His feud-filled punditry career kept him in the spotlight, especially the long-running debates about Paul Pogba's performances. Whether fair or excessive, his critiques shaped headlines week after week. Fans waited for his reactions because they knew he would never hold back. Souness spoke with the sharpness of a former captain still fighting battles, and that raw honesty made him impossible to ignore. The Galatasaray flag incident remains one of the most dramatic chapters of his entire life. Planting the flag in Fenerbahce's stadium turned him into a hero on one side and a villain on the other. It captured everything about him: bravery, emotion, and a willingness to provoke. Decades later, the moment is still replayed as a symbol of fierce loyalty. Few managers have ever created such an iconic image. His clashes with players and football institutions also became defining parts of his story. Feuds with Phil Thompson, Craig Bellamy, Andy Cole, and even frustrations with the Scottish FA showed how deeply he lived the sport. He demanded intensity because he played with intensity, even when it caused conflict. It came from a desire to win. The battles may have been messy, but they shaped a legacy built on fire. As the curtain falls on this story, one thing is certain: Graeme Souness will always remain one of football's most compelling figures. His highs and lows form a legacy that is dramatic, controversial, and unforgettable. If you enjoyed this breakdown of his journey, make sure to subscribe for more legendary stories and drop a comment on which athlete or topic you want next. Your support keeps the series alive